YouTube, what's good, what's good? Hope you're having a great day today. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about Season 3 Reloaded and some of the weapon changes that they made and kind of how that's going to affect the meta. I'm going to show you guys on a chart on TrueGameData.com how they kind of stack up against each other. I'm going to give my opinion on some of the patch notes where I think the meta is going to go, and then we're going to get into some classes that I have formulated over the last couple days of playing. You know, a lot of this is strictly based on opinion, what I think feels good. Like I said in my last meta loadout video, what I say is not absolute. So let's just go ahead and get right into some of the patch notes, and I'll be giving my opinion on, like I said, what these changes kind of mean and from a number standpoint and how I think going forward the meta is going to stack up. So first of all, these BP50 SVA changes, these don't really mean anything. Nothing game-changing or anything like that. Ram 7. So Ram 7 up until yesterday, really good gun to use, still really fun to use. It's been in the meta for a long time, and I'm kind of glad they nerfed it. It took only what 4 nerfs, and now it's not in the meta anymore like it was up until yesterday. So I'm actually a fan of that. I like when they actually really nerf something into the ground. That way, I don't think it is always the solution, but I did think the Ram 7 really sorely needed it just because it's been so usable for so long. So don't even waste your time using it going forward. It might be good at some ranges and in that mid tier, but I just don't think it's going to be as usable as it was. MTZ and Holger 556, you know, more of these other tiny small buffs don't really make a difference in the grand scheme of things. MCW. So this MCW buff, this is another third buff, I think, that they have put on the MCW. And while they've been buffing it, it is just simply not enough. This gun may now kill at some ranges a bullet or two faster, depending on where you're hitting your shots at. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be in the meta now. I think at some ranges it'll be usable, simply for the fact that it's very low recoil, very low skill, very easy to use, large magazine size. So maybe like at really long ranges, it'll excel for its ease of use. But I don't necessarily think that is going to mean that it's just going to creep its way into the top 4 guns that you could use. So that being said, give it a go. I tried it. I thought it felt good. I thought it felt better than it did for sure. But some of the options that I'm about to get into when we get into the actual charts and classes, I'll show you just how much they just really outclass each other. And then as for the next gun, the FR556, I think this is a buff that nobody really saw coming. I don't know who wanted this or whose idea it was. Huge rework on this weapon. I've used it. It's okay, but it doesn't shoot fast enough. The bullet velocity is kind of subpar. It's just awkward to use. You know, we haven't had a really good burst weapon in a while. You know, not really since the beginning of the game when the DG was good. I kind of think this buff should have went back to the DG56 assault rifle just because that gun, it took a little bit of skill to use because it had a little bit of recoil with it. But here we are. I don't think this is going to get used. I don't think it's going to be in the meta. If it does creep its way in at some point, I will be really surprised. So... and now we get to kind of some lackluster buffs. You know, I honestly wouldn't waste any time with the M13B, with the Tempest, with the FR. They already buffed the Razorback once, and it just, it's just not that good. None of the MW2 weapons are that good. Really, the only 2 MW2 weapons that are remotely in the conversation are the STB556 and the TR Geist. So, but the Geist is really only good up till about 30 meters. And the FR, or not the FR, but the STB556 is good, but it only has a 42-round mag. It's probably only good for solo duos. Has a little bit of a weird visual shake to it when you get about 15 bullets into the mag. But feel free to give either of those weapons a try. I didn't include them in any of the classes that I made today. The classes that I made today are just my opinion on where the meta is going as of the Season 3 Reloaded update. Next, we're going to get into... Oh, excuse me. Oh, sorry. Next, we're going to get into these battle rifles. So this Soa Subverter nerf, this is pretty significant. So this is really going to kind of, I'm not going to say it's going to severely hurt the TTK. You know, -3 damage from where it was. That it's going to kind of edge it out from the number 1 spot, but I still think that at some ranges, this is still going to be pretty usable. I don't think that it's going to be the number 1, like I said, but still going to be usable. Keep that in mind. I have it in the charts that I'm going to show. So don't freak out or anything if you really loved the SOA. I really like the SOA, but I am kind of glad that they changed it, just because I did think that it was a little bit too easy to use for how good that it was. These 2 buffs or changes. Oh, excuse me, can't stop yawning. These don't really matter. Submachine guns. So this was like a really big buff and nerf section that I was really worried about going into Season 3 Reloaded, because I was worried that they weren't going to do enough or were going to make something incredibly broken. They did that, but they didn't do it with an SMG, and I'll get there in a second. So HRM, this is in the dirt now. I mean, kind of needed it. It's been in the meta for such a long time. So take this completely out of your rotation. As far as this nerf, not really necessary. Don't know why they did it. This gun wasn't that good to begin with. It was good off the ground if you found it. Rival 9, this gun, this is just not enough. It's just not enough still. It's just a little tickler. It does not do enough damage per mag. I think that it would be fun to have this weapon in the meta just because the mobility on it is pretty good. It's pretty fun to use. But in no way do I think that this is going to creep its way in. This gun and the HRM are pretty close together based on fire rate and mobility and stuff like that. So, I'm so sorry. I can't stop yawning. It's pretty late and I've been playing. And I finally decided to make this video because I messed up my other one. Anyway, so this buff to the WSP9, this is a pretty dramatic difference. So, I mean, that kind of dramatically changes how good this gun is up close. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's the best, but and that's more of a personal opinion for me because I don't like the gun all that much. I've used it here and there, and it feels good sometimes, but then sometimes it feels bleh. Just because you have the open bolt delay, it has a kind of weird recoil pattern. It's just a little bit weird of a gun. This striker buff doesn't really make all that much of a difference. It's going to be good at kind of that over 8 to 10 meter range, but maybe a viable sniper support in the future. Not enough right now, I would think. I hope they buff it a little bit more because I do really enjoy the regular base striker. KV broadside riveter doesn't matter. This is not gonna make any difference. And now light machine guns. So this is where all the talk of the town is right now. Some of these changes are pretty dramatic, especially for this DGLSW. So this gun was like dead last in the LMG section before, and that went from dead last to being highly, highly competitive in the meta now. Wait till I show you the conversion kit for it. You are going to probably your pants seeing how good this gun is up close. So Bruin nerf, didn't necessarily think that it needed this, but they did it. Here we are. The Bruin is not usable anymore. Don't waste your time. It already had some weird recoil and shake and blah, 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 blah. Just don't even waste your time. So for the snipers, I'm so glad they did this. It's going to make snipers a little harder to use, I think, at longer ranges. Because bullet velocity is kind of king in situations like that. Do I think snipers are going to be heavily used in the meta still? Yes. But I did think that this change was necessary. I don't necessarily either want snipers to be completely nerfed just because I think they do have a place in Warzone. But I probably speak for a lot of people who would also agree that I cannot stand having a really good game or being really close to a win in a solo or a quad or whatever, and I just get my head ripped off by a sniper that I can't see from the side or from behind to some kid or a group of kids sitting on top of a building. hopefully that alleviates some of that for me and other people going forward. But anyway, not the point. Did think this, like I said, was needed. Hopefully they don't really take them out of the meta, but they'll still get used a fair amount. But I do think that this kind of still puts the Stalker up front, and then the Moors, and then the Cat. The Cat is still okay, but it's just so slow. I honestly wouldn't mind if they buffed a couple of the other MW2 snipers. So, moving on, all of these handgun and pistol changes don't really matter all that much. This 9mm Damon might be interesting at some point, but maybe only for akimbos, but I don't think that we're going to have to worry about that anytime soon. So that kind of covers all the actual buffs and nerfs. Let's kind of get into the actual charge and how a lot of these weapons are going to stack up against each other. So we're going to do the long range, close range, and then we'll get into classes. So as you can see, feel free to go on this website and mess with this as much as you would like. I change these around just so I can get a better opinion on how it looks from a wider scale. So that being said, and this is a combination of shots. So we're going to change this to chest. And chest is probably the most overall consistent because your chest and torso area has like the biggest hitbox kind of out of everywhere else on the body. But when you throw in this combination, if somebody's twisting, moving, turning, and whatnot, I think that does weigh into the decision that you have to make over what you want to use or should be using consistently. So that being said, we're just going to leave it on combination and kind of talk from the combination shot standpoint. So if you look at chest only, the subverter right here, the subverter is still should be in the top, right? But you change it to combination and it really dramatically drops off, which makes sense. Nobody's hitting all chest unless you're just standing absolutely still, or maybe you're shooting back at one another. But other than that, it's really only good up till 20 meters. After that, it severely drops off. And now you have your Holger 5.56. That's probably realistically the best up until this 34.5 meter range. And then, your TAC Evolve Array, another really good option. But the two weapons that I think are kind of the most important right now are going to be your DG LSW and your Holger 26 LMGs. So, they don't have the highest TTKs back here. So you see they're sitting right about that 765 time to kill. And then the higher you get, the more consistent they are at that 765 range. And then the higher they creep kind of on this chart. And then at these really long ranges, they're all the way at the bottom. So they're more like these hybrid ARs. They're not really like LMGs, which is why I'm glad that they are getting a little bit more love now. Because I feel like the AR play that we have had in Warzone up to this point in the life cycle of MW3 has been very lackluster. The only one that's really been usable is the Ram 7 and the Holger 5.56, and that was only a few weeks ago that they made the Holger 5.56 usable. So, and you can kind of see in here too, like where the MCW falls. So it's like middle of the road, It's better than the MTZ 7.62, better than the TAC Evolve Array at some ranges, but it just starts to severely drop off. Same thing with the SVA. The SVA just really severely drops off. The only thing that makes the SVA pretty viable is that you can put it in that burst mode and single fire and get almost no recoil. So the ease of use is really high on a lot of these lower time to kill weapons, but some of them just have like almost no recoil, so it just makes it irrelevant. And honestly, a gun that you are comfortable using, that you can hit your shots with, might mean more in the grand scheme of things of quote-unquote meta than actual true time to kill. Time to kill is king, don't get me wrong there, but if you have a gun that you perform better with statistically, I encourage you to keep it that way. So the MTZ 7.62 is kind of still in the long-range conversation, but it's not very forgiving. It doesn't have a big mag. A big mag. has a little bit slower of a fire rate. So that's going to kind of cover it for what the long range looks right now. So now we're going to get into the short range, and oh boy, am I not excited for like the next week of this short range meta. So as you can see, this DG LSW conversion kit, the Nightshade, the buffs that they did to the LSW, I don't think they tested or took into account what this might do to the conversion kit. But this weapon is absolutely broken. Broken. Broken in solos, broken in duos. You can squeeze out 3 kills in one magazine with this gun. Takes around anywhere from 8 to 11 shots to kill. Fast fire rate. Its only downfall is the movement is pretty slow. It's not very good, and it has a 40 round mag. Not ideal, but if you can make that work with sleight of hand and turning off automatic tac sprint to actually be able to reload right now until they fix it, this weapon will pay off for you. I have a class. I'm going to show you how it shoots, show you how easy it is to use. We're entering in that threshold of below 600 millisecond TTK, which in my last meta video, if you watched it, that 600 millisecond TTK, should I say between 600 and 650, that is like your sweet spot for up close balanced time to kill, or competitive time to kill, I should say. When you start to creep up above that 650 range, that's where things tend to drop out of the meta. And when you start to get below that 600 to 610 range, that's where stuff starts to get really broken and busted and just blatantly not fun to use, in my opinion. Is it fun for a little bit to kind of mess around with? Yes, but when you start getting into the point where everybody's using it, and if you're not using it, you're not having fun, that's just kind of where I lose interest in the meta. Just my opinion. Don't know how you feel. I'm not trying to be negative or complain, but I really, really, really hope they fix this soon. I'm cool with something like this being in the meta, but it needs to be closer as far as competitiveness goes. So at all ranges, this is elite. This is the best S tier option. If you're not using it, stop what you're using and use this. The only time I'm not using it is if I usually come back from the gulag, or if I'm low on ammo and I'm grabbing my loadout again. I'll grab an SMG just to have that extra ammo. But if I have a muni box where I can get to an ammo supply or anything like that, I'm using this gun. The MCW conversion kit is still going to be good, still fun to use. Same old song and dance as before. The BP50 conversion kit, I don't really like it. It's still good. It's right up there with the MCW. It's the only way it kind of edges the MCW out is it does have a bigger mag and a faster fire rate. But as far as time to kill goes, I don't think it's going to be outclassing anything unless they give it another buff or something like that. And then, your two best SMGs right now are going to be the Striker 9 and the WSP 9. If I was to throw in the Striker and the Rival 9, they're going to be way back. Like back at this range, they're in like the 700s. So we're not even competitive at that point with the close range meta. But these 5 options right here are going to be your go-tos. So I'm going to show you some classes now. Like I said, take these with a grain of salt. What I say is not the absolute truth. This is just what I kind of prefer, what I think feels good. And after playing close to 10 to 12 hours between yesterday and today, this is just what I'm about to show is just what I think is going to really, really, really work for a vast majority of players. But if you think there's some other attachments that feel a little bit more comfortable for you, don't hesitate to change them. So I'm going to go ahead and head right into a private match because that's where I kind of do all my meta loadouts just so I don't mess with any of my main Warzone loadouts that I cycle through and I'll have named and whatnot. So starting off, it's going to be my DG class. So you can build this a couple different ways. As it stands, how I have it built right now, you're sitting at about 1100 and some change bullet velocity and very low recoil. The The build that I've kind of been sticking to the most right now is going to be more of like a longer range build where I take off high velocity and throw on this recoil reduction butt plate. And even that, in this sense, with the current barrel, you still have over 1,000 meters per second in bullet velocity, and that's great. High velocity is almost not needed in that instance. So, and I'll usually use the Choreo Eagle Eye, but it kind of any way you cut this pie on what build you want to use, it's very, very, very low recoil, very easy to use. I think this is going to be the #1 picked option, not because it's the best, but it's kind of your really good all-arounder. Big mag, easy to use, low recoil, good time to kill at all ranges, especially those longer ones. Not a lot of recoil on this weapon. I'm barely pulling down, and it just hardly moves. And that's with all the visual shake taken away from the Choreo Eagle Eye. Next is going to be the Holger 26. So, just like I showed you in the chart, these weapons are kind of like 1A and 1B in terms of time to kill. You can build this the same way, a couple different ways, whatever feels more comfortable for you. The only thing that kind of stinks about this is you're kind of burdened by using the glassless optic on it, because when you start to throw on any longer range sights, like for whatever reason, Sledgehammer, when they make their guns, they have sights that are closer to you, that are further away from you and closer to your face. I wish they would just make them all far or all close, preferably all close, because I think it makes the precision sight better. But if you throw a Choreo on this, it's kind of far away from your face, kind of about how the Pull Me Out was. So, but it's still pretty low recoil, not a ton of shake, but I think the glassless is kind of king on this. If you want even less recoil, I would take off this and throw on either the Assault Stock or the Ascent Lord. So, next, Tac Evolve Array. This gun is not the best, but I tell you what it is. It's very easy to use. I mean, you just shoot this thing, and it just hardly moves. It has a little bit of visual shake on it, but you can throw on the Cassis brake, get a little bit better bullet velocity on it, and then it just does not move. I used this a little bit yesterday, and it's very, very, very easy to use. You can also take off high velocity and throw on a stock. I think it kind of needs high velocity to stay competitive at longer ranges, but it's very low recoil, very easy to use. Definitely give this a shot if you're kind of bored of the other LMGs. I don't really like this because it is slow. I'm not a big fan of the really slow, belt reloading LMGs. The Pull Me Out was pretty fun, but you could strafe fast. You could reload it a little bit faster with sleight of hand. That's going to kind of clear up LMGs. So next, the same Holger 5.56 build that we've been rocking. Do not put any other attachments on this other than what I have, because this is like a perfect balance between bullet velocity and recoil that I think we have right now with this gun. I wish they would lower some of the shake that it has, because the recoil statistics don't necessarily translate to actually how much shake the gun has. I think visual shake in video games is the worst thing for actual. I think it's bad for M&K players. I think it's bad for controller players. I think they should just get rid of it altogether. Go back to how the Cold War and the Vanguard weapons used to kind of shake, if that makes sense. They don't really shake. They more just had like this true recoil bounce to them. So next going to be the SVA. So this is another build that you can kind of play with and go back and forth on. But like I was saying, you throw this thing into single fire and you just tap, tap, tap. It doesn't move. I mean, I'm not touching. I'm only touching to put it on the dummy. I'm not touching it after that, though. Fast as you want. And if you want a little bit more bullet velocity, you can take off the Zimin and put the suppressor on it, the sonic suppressor. And then if you still struggle with the recoil, you can take off I would take off high velocity, throw on a suppressor, and then put on an underbarrel of some sort. Go from there, see how you like it. I don't like the SVA. I don't like the fact that you have to tap it. I'd rather just keep it in full auto and tap it willingly, not because I have to. So you can put the glassless optic on this and kind of get rid of a lot of that visual recoil that it has, because it kind of bounces like in a crossing motion or like in a circular looking motion when you get about 10 to 15 bullets into the mag, and I just hate that. So I don't use this gun. As far as the MCW goes, so this is the build that I have really liked. You can mess around between the optic and the underbarrel and the high velocity to see what you think works the best. But this is what I like the most. Very low recoil. I had a pretty good TTK in that 30 to like 50-ish meter range. Very low skill, low recoil, easy to use. I would give this a shot if recoil control is something that you sort of struggle with at longer ranges and just want to try something different. I love the MCW in multiplayer, so I'll be playing with it here and there just for fun, but I don't think that this is going to be the best, like I stated earlier. So that is going to kind of conclude all the weapons that I'd like to go over today for the long range. But like I said, the SOA is still in the mix. There's some other guns you could probably throw in there that I'm leaving off. This is mainly, like I said, mainly focused on Season 3 Reloaded and those impacts, not a whole entire meta video. Maybe in a couple weeks when we really solidify the meta a little bit better, I'll make another like hard meta and soft meta video like I did before. But right now, it's just Season 3 Reloaded. So next, here we have the close range meta. Like I said, this is the DG LSW conversion kit, Jack Nightshade rifle kit. If you are not using this, stop what you are using and put this on. You will instantly just completely incinerate people up close to you. It doesn't have a lot of recoil. It has pretty decent bullet velocity for a conversion kit. I mean, you're looking at 665 bullet velocity. Most SMGs in the game, when you build them for more bullet velocity, are touching that, yes, but you don't even have to do that with this gun. It's already there. So, and just with how easy this weapon is to use, and I have pretty much like full recoil attachments on it, it aims down sight nearly instantly. You can take off this optic and it'll probably aim down sight a little bit quicker, but just look at this. Look how easy this is to shoot. I mean, so easy. And then if you wanted to edit this and put it on 3 plays just for just to see how it looks, I mean, that's so fast. And this is probably a little bit further. This is 10 meters away. I mean, you're really going to be closer than this to people with this gun. I mean, look, and at 10 meters, 10, what is that, 25? It's beaming at 25 meters. This is going to be your sniper support, your SMG, blah, 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 blah. The only problem is what are you going to use with it? SOA, Holger, who knows? I think that this gun will probably force people to snipe a little bit more because this is just too good to run. I don't think that anything is going to touch it until they fix it. I mean, I hope they fix it tomorrow. They should have fixed it yesterday. Anyway, that's besides the point. I'm not here to complain. Same Jack MCW build that we've had. This still feels really comfortable. Super low recoil. Shoots a little bit slower, so it's not going to be super forgiving. But if you run sleight of hand and you play your fights correctly, this is still a very good option. And they also fixed the Jack Cutthroat stock on it. So you can throw this on and just have crazy good strafe speed if you put on Stalker. I've seen some other streamers put on Stalker with this, and it looks like they're half sprinting around the map, aim down sight. It's pretty crazy. Kind of miss a meta that was like that with SMGs and assault rifles. But I don't think that the Jack Cutthroat will make it into the meta on really any gun, if you want me to be completely honest with you. But I hope that they put it on some other SMGs because I think it'd be fun to use on a couple SMGs. And then BP50 conversion kit. This is what I use. I've bounced back and forth between Purifier and Cassis. They kind of do the same thing, but I mean, I don't like all that left and right shake. You could probably make this a tack stance build, and it would be pretty good up close. But I don't know how I feel about the gun overall. I don't really think it's that good, but you can play around with high grain and the laser and whatnot, and it kind of takes away. But even with high grain, it still has just about the same recoil, so why not just use high grain on it instead? So And then here we are with our final two close range meta options, and you can play around with these. The one that I think I found that I like the best is this specific build here. You know, the Striker 9 has been kind of creeping into the meta slowly. Has really good mobility, really good aim down sight speed, strafe speed. You know, you can run it with no stock and sacrifice a ton of recoil, but you slide really fast with it. And it aims down sight really fast, has really good sprint to fire time. I've been using it probably for the last week or so off and on, I'd say, just to give it a run. I do like it. I think once they fix the Nightshade conversion, I think this will be up there with the MCW as far as pick rate goes. And then finally, you have your WSP9. So this is the build that I like the most. You know, it still has the open bolt delay, which is what makes me not like it. Like, you can just shoot, and your bullet just doesn't come out right when you're hitting your trigger. But it is kind of the best true SMG sniper support right now. But it's just a kind of an uncomfortable gun. I don't like any of the barrels. I don't like any of the stocks. But if you hit your shots in correct places, you know, chest, neck, stomach, you're going to get a pretty good TTK. But it starts to rise a little bit when you hit somebody in the arm or the leg. So that is going to kind of conclude all the classes that I have. If you have made it this far into the video, comment down below a weapon that you would like to see put into the meta next through a buff. I'm kind of over them nerfing everything. I want to see them buff some stuff. I want to see them buff some ARs that have never been in the meta between MW2 and MW3. I mean, we have over 100 weapons in the game. Why not buff something and just make it fun? Make the game fun. I'd be cool with a new sniper, a new marksman rifle. Well, maybe not a single-shot marksman rifle. If they do put another marksman rifle in the game, it cannot be like the stupid fucking MTZ interceptor again. Oh my god, that was the worst meta in Warzone I think we've ever had. Anybody could use it. Anyway, comment down below. If you made it this far into the video, I appreciate you more than you know. We've been growing a ton over here on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. I also stream on TikTok. I stream on all those platforms almost every single day. I don't do all 4 of them at the same time, but I typically do 2 or 3, mainly Twitch and Kick every single day, and I add a third. So links are in the description. Follow me down there for daily live streams. Like, comment, subscribe for more. I'm trying to get into more long-form content. I usually do short form, but this is something I've really enjoyed learning and doing over the last few months of trying to get into a regular upload schedule. So I look forward to seeing you back on the channel. Have a good rest of your day. Peace out.